Hashem, continuing with the book of Esther, chapter 1, verse 12. King Ahasuerus has summoned Vashti to come and to show her beauty, because she was beautiful. Vatima'ena Malka Vashti Lavo. The queen Vashti refused to come. Vidvara Malch. She refused to come at the word of the king, Asher Biyada Sarisim, that he sent her an invitation through his assistants, and she refused. Vayiktofa Melch Ma'od, and the king was very upset. Chamaso ba'arabo, and his anger burned within him. Vayomer Melch Chachamim Yodei Aitim, and the king said to the wise men who know the times, meaning to. Oh wait, we skipped the Rashi on that. But Timaina Malka Vashti, our rabbis taught, why did she refuse to come? The rabbi said, Ufisha Parcha Bat Sarat. She had an outbreak of leprosy. Do they have leprosy in Rwanda? No leprosy, okay. Kadesha Tima'ain V'te'areg. That she had an outbreak of leprosy, so she would refuse to come and then be killed. Ufisha Aita Mavshetet Benos Yisrael Arumot, because she would make the daughters of Israel be naked, and then they would do their work on Shabbos. As a result of that, it was decreed that she should be killed. She should be killed naked on Shabbat, because she made her Jewish workers work on Shabbat while they were naked. Okay. Vayiktzov, and Rashi says he got angry because she sent insults to him. Kikain Devar Melech. That was the practice of the king. Oh, wait, so this Rashi's on the next pasuk. Vayomer Melech, verse 13, and the king said to the wise men who Yodei Aitim, these are like the lawyers. The king turned to his lawyers. Kikain Devar Melech Lefnei Kol Yodei Dat V'Din. That was the king's procedure. He would turn on these matters to all the people who know Dat V'Din. It would return to all the people who know the law. So what happened now? Rashi says, that was a matter of the king and all matters of law. Verse 14. Who was the closest to him was Karshana, Shesar, Admasa, Tarshish, Meres, Marsanam, Muchan. These people were the closest. They gave him the best advice, Rashi says. These 7 people. Shivas Sarei Parasamadai, they were the 7 officers of Persia and Media. Ro'ei Pnei HaMelech, they saw the king's face. Hayushvim Rishona b'Malchut, they sat first. They were the Ahasuerus council. Kidat Mala Asot b'Malka Vashti, you had to know, what's the law? What can I do with Queen Vashti? Because she didn't follow the king's command through the officers. Rashi says that is what to do. That's what he was asking about. But the thing is, we see from here that this king is bound by the law. He didn't just execute her. He was bound by the law. He said, what can I legally do here? What are my legal options? He wanted to know what his legal options were. But
would he care if it was against the law?
That's what the point is. He couldn't just act freely. He needed to have the law.
I'm just asking, United States had 3 presidents assassinated. Would he have really cared if he couldn't do it according to the law?
Apparently he wouldn't have gotten away with it. That's the point. He needed to, the plain sense of the meeting was that he needed to know legal advice. He didn't know what his legal options were. It makes sense if we understand it that these were two kingdoms that were coming together at this time. And there was the law governing the treaties, and he couldn't just act flippantly or frivolously. So Memuchan spoke. Now the Gemara tells us that Muchan was actually Haman. And you notice that the Gemara tells us that he was the last one listed, but he spoke first. It's usually the fools who speak first. And Memuchan said before the king and the officers, it's not only against the king has Vashti, the queen, done wrong. It's the principle of the matter. She's not just done a sin against the king. She's done a sin against all the officers and all the people that are in the kingdom of Achashverosh. This goes to a core crisis. You can't have somebody who doesn't listen to the king. That's an existential crisis. But he doesn't say like that it's an existential crisis for the kingdom. He goes even more than that. It's not just an existential crisis for the kingdom. It's an existential crisis for all men. The word of the queen will go out to all the women. And nobody will respect their husbands. And they'll say, look, King Achashverosh said, she doesn't listen to the king, so we don't have to listen. So it seems like there was a struggle here for power between Vashti and Achashverosh. Who's in charge? Is it the man or the woman? And she might think, I'm in charge. I brought the money into the marriage. I'm the one in charge. Rashi says, for all the women, Zesha Bista at the mouth, they'll hear that she disrespected the king. And now all the women will disrespect their husbands. Verse 18. Now this day, the princesses of Persia, Media will say, and on this day, all the princes of Persia, Madai, will say this matter to all the they'll tell it to all the king's officials, and there'll be a lot of disrespect and anger. So says Memuchan, if it finds favor in the king's eyes, let the v'kasev date parasim ladai v'lo yavor asher lo tavo vashti ufnei hamelch Achashverosh u'malchota yiten hamelch haruta tova mimena. So now we see. Now what do? He says, if it finds favor in the king's eyes, the word of the king should go out from before him, and he should write in the laws, again, it's the laws of Persia Media, that it cannot be changed. That since that Vashti is not allowed to come before the king Achashverosh anymore. That's your law. You have the right to make the law that she can't come, and you have the right to take her kingdom. You're confiscating her kingdom, and you should give it to her friend who's better than her. Basically, use the law to limit her power and confiscate her property. You can't touch her. You notice he doesn't kill her according to the literal text. But Rashi says he does kill her. But the literal text does not say that. Literal text says she's just not allowed to be married. She's not allowed to come before you anymore, and you confiscate her kingdom. Basically, take away all her authority. Take away her power base. Rashi says, Gzeros Malchus Shel Nekama Shetitzavel Harga. Rashi says this is the decree of the kingdom of revenge, that you should command to kill her. Okay. Next verse. And the word of the king was heard throughout his whole kingdom. Okay, wait, I skipped the Rashi. This needs to be written in the works of Persia Media. This will be the new law of the king. And this law cannot be changed. This will be the law for anybody who disrespects their husband, because Vashti didn't come, and therefore she was killed. So Rashi clearly takes the approach that she was killed as a consequence. And back to the verse, and the word of the king was heard. The word of the king shall be heard, says Memuchan, throughout his kingdom, Kirabahi, because it is great. Even though the king's kingdom is great, the word will be heard. And now all women will respect their husbands, great and small alike. I mean, that's a little bit, hey, Binyamin. We're studying the book of Esther, but you can take the regular Chumash. Yeah, but you take the red Chumash, it's in the back. So, we're just reading about how all the women must give honor to their husbands. Okay, you have a question, Rabbi Yosef?
Yeah, we just learned the Nivalmut about a minor girl. So, according to this explanation of Rashi, even if the man is a minor, they still take precedence over.
No, the katan here does not mean a minor. It means even if he's not as great as Achashverosh, he's not such a hotshot.
He's as great as Achashverosh.
I'm saying whether he's a big fancy guy or a little small guy, it doesn't mean a minor. I don't think so.
Okay.
That's anyway. That's how. Chapter 1, verse 21. And the matter was good in the eyes of the king. And the princes. And he did like Memuchan suggested. He took away Vashti's property. And he said, "You're not allowed to come before me anymore." But again, he couldn't kill her. When he sent all the books and he sent letters with this decree to all the countries and to each nation according to their tongue. So that every man is in charge of his household. And every man must speak in the language of his people. Rashi says, he forced a woman to learn the language of her husband. She was a different language. Now, this seems kind of random. What does it mean? And that every man is in charge of his home, and they have to speak the man's language. That seems kind of random. So some commentaries say that was just thrown in to distract from the real decree that every man's in charge. But it was, but it wasn't real. Because why is he making a decree about the language? But the other approach is to say, no, when you have two marriages, that it was really aimed at Vashti, because they were fighting, the lawyers were fighting who's in charge. So he says, we're going to take the lingua franca, will be my country, says Achashverosh, and not Vashti's.
And the Gemara gives the third explanation, which is that this letter was so stupid that the people didn't regard it as important, and that's why when the second letter came, they said this is as stupid as the previous one.
Yeah, the Gemara says that. That it's to highlight his idiocy. But right, I mean, which part of it is stupid? The whole idea that the man is in charge of the house is not realistic. Okay. Maybe it's different in Rwanda.
I
In
wear the
Rwanda,
pants in the house. So what?
What?
I wear the pants in the house. So what?
I'm not getting involved. You work it out
No,
yourself.
I'm saying that's what it sounded to them as
Yeah.
that he was basically giving the man authority that he can wear the pants in the house and it's his language and it's his customs and it's his dinner and it's his taste and whatever else it is. And they basically said, this is an idiotic decree because we're already doing it like that.
I remember one time I have cousins, and I guess the marriage is like one was European, one was American, and they had a little 2-year-old boy, and they invited me for a Shabbos dinner, and the boy looked at me and said, "I'm the boss of the house." I think he was imitating his father. If you have to say you're the boss, maybe you're not the boss. Would you agree with that?
You have to say it, yeah.
We're doing the book of Esther, so you can get a regular Chumash. Yeah, he says, "I'm the boss of the house." Okay. So, all right. It's right in front of you. You're looking at it, Elon. The red Chumashim. Yeah. What page are we on, Guy?
1375.
1375. After these matters, Kishoch HaMelech, Kishoch Hamas HaMelech Chashverosh, when King Achashverosh, he started calming down, the Zacharet Vashti Veit Asher Asata. He remembered Vashti and that which she had done, Veit Asher Nigzar Aleha. He remembered Vashti and everything that he had decreed upon her. And Rashi says he remembered her beauty and he became sad. So, hold on. So that shows, like he's also an idiot that he upset, he regrets what he said. Okay. Yes, Jerry had a question.
Yes, in Pasuk 7, I'm sorry, in Pasuk 1, the word Hamas, anger, is that the same word in Arabic, anger?
No, it's not. It's a samach versus a tal.
The word here is Charat Verma'elach Keshoch Chamat Hamelech, but it does mean anger here. And the word in the Torah, Hamas, in violence, is Ches Mem Samach is violence. Now the Arabic word Hamas is not the terrorist group Hamas is not from the Hebrew word Hamas. It's an acronym. What does it stand for exactly? I forget exactly what it stands for, but it's not the Arabic word for violence. Hold on. Okay, hold on one second. Hold on one second.
Harakat al Mukav.
What does it stand for?
Harakat al Mukavima al Islamia. So that's what the acronym is. So the samach is kind of like they drop a few of the first letters, otherwise it would be Hamdi, which doesn't really mark it to
Okay.
the Islamic resistance movement.
Yeah, it's not the Hebrew word Hamas. Okay, so
What did your
Elon, say it again. Can you hear?
Harakat al Mukavima al Islamia.
It stands for the Islamic resistance movement, but it's not it's not the Hebrew word violence. It's a different word.
Yeah.
So, okay, hold on.
thank you.
No.
Hold on one second.
According to Wikipedia, it's Harakat al Mukawama al-Islamiyya,
But
I think that's
which means the Islamic resistance movement.
okay. Now we go on. Vayomu Na'arei HaMelech Mishartav. And the youth, the Na'arei HaMelech, the princes of the king, who were his advisors, who his assistants, said, Yivakshu HaMelech Na'aros Betulos Tovos Mareh. So the king should choose young women who are beautiful and bring them in. Now it sounds like, okay, when you learn this story, the problem with the book of Esther is a lot of people learn it for the first time when they're in nursery. So you say, oh, it sounds like it's a beauty pageant. But unfortunately, when you read it as an adult, you realize what it was a mass sexual assault on these women who were taken unwillingly, and he's just forcing himself upon them. That's what he did.
But the Talmud does give one positive twist, which is that
Yes.
he only had relations at night and not during the day, which is one of
Okay,
the
he had
things.
that going for him. He had that going for him.
at least you can say a nice thing instead.
That reminds me of the joke that there was an advisor to the king. There was a guy who was a real jerk, and then he had nothing good going for him. He was terrible, and then he died, and so nobody knew how to give the eulogy for him because he was a terrible person. So nobody knew what to do. So, and one guy's like, "I got this." He goes up to the pulpit and he says, his brother was worse. That was the only good thing they could say about him. That's what the Talmud was saying. Okay. And the king appointed officers in all the kingdom. Al Shoshana Bira Beitan Hashem Al Yad Hegas Sarissa Melech Shomer Hashem and Aton Tamrukehen. And the king appointed officers in the whole Medino Malchuto, in all the provinces of his kingdom, and all the virgin girls who were beautiful, they gathered to Shushan, to the house of the women, to Hegas Sarissa Melech, the watch, the guardian of the women, and he gave them cosmetics. Let's see what Rashi says here. Yevkeda Melech Pekidim. Okay, and then after this Rashi, we need to stop. It says the king appointed officers. Every officer knew the pretty women. Meaning to say these were salacious officers. And what are the cosmetics? Okay. All right, let me stop here. I just want to call. Hold on, let me stop the recording.